Hi everyone, it's Kiki here. I'm here with a process video, my first scrapbooking process video, and I'm starting with some lovely paper from 49 and Market, the Sky collection. I just want to add some additional text script to it, just to give some additional interest to the background. So I'm taking a stamp here from Prima and putting some archival ink and black down. I haven't really decided exactly what I'm going to do in terms of placement for the photo, except where you saw it when it opened. So once I'm done that, I'm going to actually put down some texture paste using a stencil. So I have a nice damask stencil here. You can see that I've used them quite extensively with my art journaling, so they're pretty dirty. But I'm taking some opaque matte texture paste from Finnabar from Prima Marketing and just putting down a thin layer of some texture paste here, making sure that I'm just covering some areas where I think I want to have a little bit more interest. I know that the photo is going to be off to the right, so it's not going to be covering it. And I don't know if you can tell right here, but while I'm doing this, there is some turquoise colored paint here off on the side, and it's mixing with the texture paste, and I really didn't think that it would, but it's kind of a happy accident. So I'm quite pleased with that. So I'm just adding a little bit more, making sure that I've got some areas covered well so that it's not too patchy looking. And as I'm moving along here, you'll see that I'm going to add a little bit more. Just make sure that it's not too thick, but not too thin at the same time. Kind of even it out. Make sure that it's not lumpy anywhere. Next, you're going to see me move over and put some into the bottom right corner. Just add a little bit of interest there as well. Just kind of balance the page out a bit. I'm not going to put as much down here in terms of the size, but I just want a couple of those scrolls on a little bit of the damask work down at the bottom, just to add some additional interest down there as well. And because I've covered over some of this turquoise paint, you'll see that some of it also transfers as well. So you'll see that once I go ahead and remove the stencil, and once it's dried, you'll see that there's a little bit more color. It might not show up entirely on the screen right now, but you'll see it at the end how there's been the transfer of that light aqua color, which actually is kind of a nice addition because the collection is called Sky, and so it does have those aqua tones to it. So I'm just going to remove the stencil gently now. And as I do that, I'm going to put it away off to the side, and I'm going to do some drying of the stencil. So you want to make sure that you're going to dry your texture paste before you continue. So here I'm just making sure that I'm getting a good dry on it. This is a really lovely collection by Katie Petit. And I really love her stuff. I've loved her ever since she started doing digital scrapbooking. So she's got a really beautiful, elegant design. And so this is the 49 and Market collection. I picked up the collection kit a little while ago, which is really beautiful. Normally with a scrapbook page, if you're going to add texture paste like this and do some mixed media work on it, you might want to add some gel medium to it, but this cardstock is just so lovely and thick, so I didn't have to worry about that. So I know that I think I'm going to put my picture there, and I've pulled out some of the dies from the kit, so I'm just going to use this to mat my photo. And then I've pulled out some of the dies. As I said, there's some lovely ones that look like lace. She's got some moths and butterflies and other pieces. So I'm just trying to figure out the placement here, where I want it. You can see now that the texture paste is dried, that the color is showing up a lot more, which I really wanted. And this is just the bottom of one of the sheets that I cut off, actually. So the backing was kind of cute, so I thought I'm going to use that as well in the placement. And I got some doilies and treated them the night before using old paper, which is the one I just put down, and tea dyed from Distress Inks, just to give it some accent color there. I love how Katie's kit for 49 a Market has the browns in it, the tans. So I found some extra pieces in my stash that I thought would probably go with this collection. And I really did want to bring out the browns, almost bordering on the reds, because the reason I chose this photo is because I love the way the light is coming through the hair, and I really wanted to draw attention to that. So I wanted to make sure that I had the accent color in there to draw attention to that. So here I'm just going through some of the stash that I've found in my collection, and I have this little book of script, and they're kind of already pre-layered, and I found this one that has, I guess, a moth or a butterfly, and it has the aqua color with the brown as well, so I'm going to use that. And instead of cutting it, I'm going to give it just a ripped edge, just to give it a bit more texture and add texture to the scrapbook page. And I haven't quite decided where I'm going to put this yet. I thought originally I was going to put it at the top, but then I would be hiding the torn edge more than I wanted to. So I thought I was going to sort of leave it up there on the side, but you'll see later that I move where I'm going to put it. And then there's this lovely script text here, dictionary page I should say, that's a definition of captured. And this lovely die tag, there you go, you see where I'm moving that little script text down to the bottom to give it more interest down there. And I think I'm going to put the tag up at the top here. So that's one of the tags from the collection kit. And then I also had this wood veneer or wood piece that I treated as well. I gave it some Distress ink and added a little bit of black as well to just add some contrast to it. I know I want to use it, but I'm not quite sure where, so I think I'm going to stretch it out over to the left of the page, and you'll see exactly where I put it at the end. And then I've got some lovely paper flowers from Prima Marketing, and I'm just trying to figure out whether I want the fence actually over some of the flowers or under, and I decide under eventually. That changes a little bit toward the end. I'm just sort of placing everything. You can see how I'm not really gluing anything down. I'm just trying to figure out my placement first, just to see exactly how many embellishments I want on the page. And I found some chipboard butterflies and tags as well from Prima that I had in my stash that I thought would go well with the collection as well. And this is one of the die cuts that comes from the collection. And then there's some beautiful leaves as well that come with the collection, that's die cuts. I like this die cut, but I couldn't quite figure out where I wanted it to go with the collection, so I just kind of left it. I'm just kind of sort of going through this, adding some interest with some of the moths, the butterflies, just trying to figure out where I want it. I want to create that triangle of embellishments to sort of draw the eye around the page, but I haven't quite figured out exactly which corners I think I want to draw it to. So I'm just kind of playing around with some placement. You'll see the tickets that I'm putting down are also chipboards. I believe they were from the Songbird collection from Prima. And then I have a little resin piece as well that's a corner, and I thought it could add some texture and interest in that corner and draw the eye more over to the right. Then I have some little flowers that are a pale blue, almost bordering on a turquoise as well, that I'm going to add to the page. So I'm just playing around with the placement and seeing if I like it. See if I want to add anything else. I have some additional flowers and some leaves from Prima Marketing that I thought that I would add, but in the end I decided to remove that flower and to just add some of the nice leaves that I have from one of their collections. So I've got some different sizes there. I also took a plain flower that I had in my stash and treated it again with this distress ink in old paper, and I thought it added some interest and a little bit of variety of color. And then I had some paper mulberry flowers that I thought would just kind of add some great layers under there as well, so I just added those. And then to add a little bit of variety in tone, I've also added one of these nice darker brown flowers from Prima. I think it was from Prima. I could be wrong. It could be from Wild Orchid Flowers actually. So I'm pretty happy with that placement. Now to get everything glued down. So you'll see as I'm going through the process that not everything is actually going to stay exactly where I had placed it right now. So I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to start doing the gluing here. So I'm just going to move everything off to the side a little bit and start gluing down from, I think I start with the lace, just to get it placed exactly where I want it. So I'm using some quick dry Helmar glue. And I realize at this point that this glue is not working for me, so I'm going to open up a new bottle. And it's really juicy glue, so you'll see me actually working on getting some of the strings off my work. But so I think to myself, I'm going to just kind of nail it down on the corners, and then I decide, no, I'm just going to pick it up and actually glue it all down. In the past, I've sometimes had some clusters already and just been able to glue them down piece by piece, leaving them in place, but not in this particular case. So I've taken everything and moved it off to the side, and I'm just going to glue down this die cut. It's really pretty and it's really detailed. And now I'm just going to get the photo down onto the mat. The mat itself is layered. It looks like it's layered papers, which is really nice. It's a really lovely collection if you're afraid of mixed media and you're not sure where to start and you want to do sort of something that's a little bit more loose. It's actually a nice collection to work with that way because the die cuts are already there for you. The papers are already these beautiful papers that really don't need anything, although I did add the damask to it, but you really don't need anything at all of them. And you could add just a few touches and your pages would be done really quickly. So I'm just making sure that things are down. That little swirling motion is just to get rid of the glue string that ends up trailing along the way. And now I'm just going to use my ATG gun and make sure that I get my mat and my photo down along with my doilies and get those really down on there. I used an ATG gun just because the photo mat's going over a little bit of that texture paste, so I needed to make sure that what did connect with the paper was going to be really nice and strong. So now I'm just adding that tag under there, and I already had a little bit of glue. This is why I prefer working with glue more than ATG guns, because I still have some wiggle room to tuck things in as layers and not have to worry about losing an opportunity to layer something underneath a photo or underneath a piece of paper. With the glue, I have a little bit of wiggle time, so that's why I prefer working with the glue if I can. So now I'm just going down and I'm putting down the top cluster together. And with the butterfly, I've decided this time I'm going to actually pop it up with some pop-up foam instead of gluing it down. just to give it a little more dimension at the top. I decided that I'm going to make that top corner one of the focal points. So you'll see I'm pulling out my foam squares, and I'm just going to put a few of those down. And these are just regular foam squares that you get at Michael's. Even with long nails, I find it tricky to get the backing off sometimes. But I find that they have a nice, they work well in terms of an adhesive and getting it to extra texture. So I've got that butterfly up there. Now I'm going to start working on the papers for the bottom. So again, I'm just going to work on the placement. I know that I want that paper there, so I'm just going to add a little bit of glue again. Again, that gives me a little bit of wiggle time to make sure that I can make final adjustments before the glue really sets. And this is just a little die that I had in my stash, but it had the aqua and the tan, so I really kind of liked it. And so I'm just going to play around with the placement a little bit here, push down a little bit. And you'll see that because I've got glue, it's giving me a little bit of time to play with it. I'm working with a new setup in my craft room for my desk, so everything is kind of crowded a bit. I need to work on a little bit of organization to give myself a bit more space to work with, but when it comes to mixed media, if you know me, it's messy anyhow, so kind of making do. Again, I've got some Prima flowers and leaves. Those are some Prima leaves that have some splashes of aqua and tan on them, which is kind of cool, and it went with a collection kit, so decided to work with those. And then I've got one of these gorgeous big flowers. I tried working with glue first to see if it would work, but you'll see later that I actually end up using some of the pop-up foam just to give it a better adhesion. I decide that I'm going to put the fence down, and because the fence went down on the leaf, I'm going to put some glue down there. And the glue is actually really, once it's set, it actually is really stable, which is nice. But because the fence went above the leaf, it gave it a little bit more height than I originally anticipated. So you'll see that I go back and adjust that tan flower. So here I've got one of the moths. I'm just going to bend the wings a little just to give it a little bit more texture and interest instead of just laying it flat. And I just keep working on placing these flowers. I really like these mulberry paper flowers. They're quite nice to work with. They're thin enough that you can layer them underneath papers and just kind of have them peeking out, but they're pretty enough that they can stand on their own as a nice embellishment as well. So I'm just layering those. I'm going to put down my nice dark flower. So you see the placement isn't exactly as it was when I had first kind of put everything down, but I'm finding places to have these flowers come tuck out. So you see how that beige flower picked up a little too easily. So because it's sitting on top of that wood fence, so this is why I decide to go with the larger square foam, because it will stick to that wood fence much easier and then be more stable. There we go. Now that should stay in place. Now I'm just going to put some of the little blue flowers down. And I've got one of the resin pieces here, so I'm going to put the resin piece down on the corner. And you'll see that I don't quite put it on the picture, but I put it on the mat and have it overlaying, so I thought it would add more interest that way. Putting down some of the leaves. This little flower, I'm not quite sure whether I want it to go on the top or whether I want it to go on the bottom. I think I kind of play around with the idea. But in the end, I end up putting it down at the bottom. Just off on the side there. And then I start again with the tickets. And this is where I decided to put the ticket up at the corner to give it the contrast again of the darker color, to draw the eye up into that corner, to really set that corner off as an embellishment corner. And now I'm deciding whether I want to add anything else. So I have a couple of the white flowers. I had one down. So I decide, okay, I'm going to work on my title first. So these are some sticker sheets from Prima again. So I choose this one. It says Dream, because I find the pictures sort of very dreamy. It was right as the sun was coming down. We're up at Horizons in Burnaby and looking down on some of the artwork there and overlooking the city. So I think I've got most of my flowers, just straightening things out. And I decide, no, I need one more white flower just to brighten up that bottom left corner. Just draw the attention down there a bit more. And then I press it down just to let it set for just a second, just to see if I can get it to stick a little longer. And as I'm doing that, I'm just looking around my desk as well to see if there's any other things that I want to add to the page. And I remembered I had another ticket that would go well, so I just grabbed that one as well. Decide on where I want the placement. At first I thought I would put it up there underneath the fence, but then I decided I'm going to put it down at the bottom. Have it just tuck out underneath the flowers. And I have some additional embellishments as well that you'll see at the end of the video when you look at the photo clips that I add. So I think that's most of the embellishments. So I'm just going to let you look at the final product, or the semi-final product. I just add a few Nuvo drops, and then also add the water bubbles that come from the collection from 49 and Market afterwards. So I hope you enjoyed this clip, and let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.